Tanya for the 16th of Tammuz, but first the story. Meirke of Mir was one of the Chassidim of Reb Mordechai of Lechovich. And he once was traveling and needed to pray, and so he found the inn, and he pulled up by the inn, and he went inside the inn and decided to daven. And as he was davening, he noticed a whole group of wagons show up at the same inn, and a whole bunch of very poor people came out of the wagons, and it was a group of travelers, a group of very poor people that would travel from city to city, and they looked dreadful. They were all exceptionally poor, and they all were exceptionally famished. But they, I guess, had some money, so they went to the innkeeper and they asked for some food, and the innkeeper brought out some food. And Meirke of Mir noticed among the crowd there was a very elderly gentleman, and he had a long white beard, and he seemed very different from the rest. And his face, it shone of purity. And Rameir watched him, and he took the bread. Unlike everyone else that rushed at the food, he took one piece of bread, and he was about to go wash, and he started to examine the piece of bread, and he put it down, and he went for another piece of bread, and he then washed and he ate, and once the group had finished eating, they all left. But this Rameir was very curious. Why did this old man look at one of the pieces of bread and then put it down, and then go for the other one, a different type of bread? So he went to the landlady and asked the landlady, when was this bread from? And she said, the day, yesterday or the day before. And so he asked her, he said, do you remember if you took challah from the dough? Did you remove the challah portion from the dough? And she froze. And she said, no, I didn't. And she couldn't believe it. She said, I can't believe I forgot to do it. No, but that batch of challah, that batch of bread didn't have any challah taken from it. So now Mr. Meirke understood that this person was special. He jumped onto his wagon and he started to chase after the caravan. And he eventually reached the caravan and he asked the people there, there was an old man amongst you. Where's this old man? So they told him and said, "Oh, he's a crazy old man. He's entirely different. He sleeps wherever we sleep. He behaves though like he's out of his mind. Sometimes he breaks the ice and he goes and bathes inside the freezing ice, and sometimes he just leaves. He leaves the group and he just goes on his own, and then he comes back. So Meirke asked, what direction did he go? So he found the direction. He started following upon him, and he saw that this old man was sitting underneath a tree, and his face was shining. So Meirke asked the old man, Rebbe, bless me. So the old man said, give me a copper coin, and I'll give you a blessing. And he gave him the coin, he gave him the bracha. And when Meirke finally reached his Rebbe in Lechovich, he told him the whole story, and his Rebbe said, how fortunate are you that you were able to get a bracha from the holy Rebbe Leib Saras. This old man was the Rebbe Leib Saras. The Tanya so far is talking about Shuvah. And we've been talking a lot about the halachic aspect and what it is halachically and what it isn't halachically, and what tshuva actually means. And then in chapter 4, we started talking about the spiritual meaning of tshuva. What is it? Tshuva. The first hay is tshuva ilah, and the second hay is tshuva tata. And the tshuva can literally be translated as tosh of hay, returning the hay back to where it belongs. And then to that end, to explain that, we spoke about the fact that Hashem took the soul and blew the soul into Adam Arishon. And blowing is a much more intimate and deeper way than talking. Talking, a person can talk endlessly. Talking, when Hashem talked the world into existence, comes from the name of Elohim, but blowing comes from Yud Kei Vav Kei, from the four-letter name of Hashem, and that's how Hashem animated the soul of Adam into himself. Now the question is, what connection does the 10 spheres have to do with Yud Kei Vav Kei? And we spoke about that. In yesterday's Tanya, we spoke about how each one of the letters of Hashem's name represent different spheres of the 10 spheres. The Yud is Chachma, the Hey is Bina, the Vav represents Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach, Hod, and Yisoid, and the final Hey represents Malchus. And in today's Tanya, we're going to continue along that very thought, but now talk about how we see this inside ourselves. One point in today's short Tanya is, where you could see the inside the soul of a man that he has this Yud Kei Vav and he has these 10 levels. The Kacha Mamish Al Derech Moshe continues Al Terben today's Tanya. So too it applies by analogy, Hamavdil Havdalas La'in case, but obviously entirely separated, infinitely so, Benishas Adam within the soul of a man. We spoke about how you have Yud Kei Vav Kei, have Hashem's name in the 10 spheres that Hashem used to create the world. But in the soul of a man, you have the same aspect. You have the same Yud Kei Vav Kei, you have the same 10 levels. Shehi Bechinas Nefesh Alikish, which is the godly soul, to Mitoiche Nafach, that Hashem blew it into Adam, but that same energy is what gives the soul to every single person. Yesh Ba Bechinas Seichel Hanelam, a person has a hidden state of wisdom. Hamirumas Ba'is Yud, and inside the soul, this wisdom, this Chachma energy is hinted or alluded to by the letter Yud. And then a person could develop this brainstorm of an inspirational thought in this breath and think about it. Based on the person's breadth and depth of his intellect, he's able to now expand that flash of thought deeper and wider. Depending on a person's intellect, a person could think deeply about the greatness of God. Remember, this is the godly soul, so its motive and what it wants is to deeply understand and connect intellectually to God. So this expansion of the flash of inspirational wisdom is the hay of the godly soul. And this hay also within the hay doesn't just have width, as you see in the shape of a yud versus a hay. A yud is stretched wide, but it's also stretched downwards. The long part of the yud, the vertical line on the right side of the hay. And then once the person has the complete intellectual understanding, it then goes to his heart. And from these emotions, or the person actually feeling something, is actually able to come to a real service of Hashem, whether in Torah study or in mitzvahs, in the voice and speech and in action. Hey, vav and hey, and this is the vav and the hey. So the same way we explained that within Hashem and Hashem's relationship with this world is the 10 spheres and the Yud Kei Vav Kei, name of Hashem, so too in the godly soul. The godly soul has the same thing, of course, completely different and a much lower level, etc. But at the same time, it exists in a similar type of format where you have the Yud and the Hey, the intellectual processy of the godly soul, and then you have the Vav and the Hey, the practical implication and the emotional journey of the godly soul, and it mirrors very much, of course, to infinite degrees separated, but still the same idea. The gam is spoinus lahavin lahaskeba mitosig glosa yisparach nimshcha gam kain. So you have the contemplation and of Hashem's true essence from the Torah, and the Torah comes from the Chachma, which is the Yud. So what we're seeing is, to summarize today's Tanya in one sentence, the same way that the Yud Kei Vav Kei and 10 spheres exist within Hashem, it also exists because the godly soul comes from Hashem. It also exists in the godly soul as well. Thank you so much for joining the Tanya. Tanya's in Nishmas, 5 of the Ben Yavno Alevi, Moshe Aaron Akayim Ben Yosef, Reuven Ben Emmanuel, Aaron Ben Avraham, Esther Bas Moshe Mordechai, Simcha Tzvi Bas Shon Rosie, Eliel Moshe Ben Avram, Sarah Miriam Bas Chaim Ben Yamin, Chaim Bas Bas Shimon Avram, and Fushtem Yaakov Ben Aaron Ben Aspat Kale Ben Chaim Bas Mesh Ben Esther Ben Nachamend Ben Edo, Leah Bas Yan Yes Ben Shon Asar, and anyone else needs to Fush Lemon, all the Jews around the world, especially as they show, successful soldiers who defend the Jewish people and speedy coming Mashiach. A wonderful and very successful day, and thank you so much for joining.